Welcome to Rick's Scale Model Fix and it's kit review time. This time we're going to be looking at Airfix's recently released 1/72 Blackburn Buccaneer S.2B. Now this is a follow-on kit from their Royal Navy boxing that was released in 2019 and was the 2SC version. So again, as always from Airfix, we've got some fantastic box art. Also illustrating the couple of options in the kit for a camouflaged machine and a all over grey later service life machine, and the kit number for this one is A06022. Just having a quick look around the box sides, we've got a little bit of blurb about the type, what was it capable of, etc. The two marking options, so we've got 208 Squadron Lossymouth 1970 and 12 Squadron Lossymouth 1993. We've got some dimensions for the finished model as well, of length of 268mm and a width of 186, and it's claiming there's 150 parts in this box. You get 2 flying hours if you're a club member, and it's a skill level 3 kit. On the opposite box side we've got the usual multilingual warning data, cartograph decals and the address of Hornby, etc. So taking a look at the instruction booklet, it's in Airfix's usual format with multilingual text for the warnings and icons used during assembly. Unsurprisingly, in stage 1 sees the construction of the cockpit, starting with the ejector seats, nose gear well being fitted to the underside of the cockpit tub, and the bulkheads, pretty standard fare these days. Sees the completed cockpit tub then sandwiched between the front fuselage sections. That's completed by step 13. Important to note that it's adding 15 grams of nose weight. I'd probably add a little bit more there. And then it's time to decide in 14, with this one piece lower wing section, what weapons you wish to hang from your airframe and opening up the required holes. On to stage 15 and page 5, we see the main wing spars being built up. This adds strength to the centre section of the model, along with some intakes and the rear sort of bulkhead section making up a box. Intake sections being continued again, and these form the front part of the air intakes. And then it's decision time, depending on which way you want to go, whether you want folded wings or extended wings. So you just follow the relevant path that's highlighted in step 23. So just a little bit of a note here. So if you're planning on doing some of the later airframes, it might be worth looking for reference, because these wing pivot covers were actually removed to aid inspection on some airframes. So you're going to have to conjure up some pivot detail in the recess underneath. Then, because of the unique shape of the Buccaneer, we've got the rear appendage of the tail section. Again, there's some holes to open up depending on your build choice, and that then joins to the rear fuselage. Now I have actually built the Royal Navy version of this, and the fit is pretty good, and it's actually features in the opening credits of Rick's Scale Model Fix. Then it's onto the intake section, and those being placed onto the airframe before the nose joins up in stage 37. Again, the fit was found to be really good in the past build, and the intakes just being popped on each side. High tail being added next, and along with some variants there for the RAF version. So it's important to just remember that they are different from the Royal Navy boxing. So the kit has included an extra sprue, and this is sprue G, as we'll see shortly, and it's calling out for the different stages, different items in each stage of the build relevant to the RAF or the 2SB version. You've got air brakes open or closed, and again it's to note there that they are actually slightly different than the Royal Navy one, and it actually asking you to remove the strake. And also it pays dividends here to open up these lightning holes in the rear brake section if you're having it open. Bombays, bulge bombay on a 2SB, so you've got that provided it can be shown open or closed. And you've got the inboard flaps as well, which can be posed dropped, even though it does show that they are in the closed position or tidy position in the instruction booklet. Some rudimentary wheel well detail for the main gear bays, and then it's on to all the smaller items, lumps and bumps and aerials. And it's also worthy of noting here F11 and F8. There's actually two types of wingtip included in the kit, and if you're making, depending on the era of the RAF machine that you're making, it's worth just checking reference photos, as they are different from the Royal Navy one. And also things like if you're doing a Gulf War version or something like that, just need to check what wingtips were actually fitted. Straight into the nose gear bay and wheel well assemblies, flat door covers and everything at the bottom of page 12, 61 to 64. 65 to 66 is dealing with the main gear, which is then added, and it's nice and useful from Airfix that they do actually give photo diagrams of actually how it looks when it's added to the airframe. Gear bay doors added, tail hook, fuel dump pipes, tail skid, all being added at the bottom, ready to see the final completion of the airframe with the aerials. Canopy, in-flight refueling probe, bird strike screen, all added in section 74, and the canopy can be posed open or closed before it's onto the weapons. So we've actually got slipper tanks, sidewinders, paveways, pave spike, jammer pod, and they're all shown as being added into their relevant positions on the model. And then finally it's the wings being added in the open or folded position to complete your build. Two options are included in the kit, and this is Scheme A, which is a 208 Squadron RAF Lossiemouth, Scotland, June 1990, and apparently the aircraft's currently preserved at the Ulster Aviation Society in Northern Ireland. So there's some little build notes there and some little quirky characteristics, such as odd intake panels and things like that, just to add a little bit of interest to your model, and that's all mentioned in the text dotted around the airframe. Option B is in an overall grey aircraft, and again just some little foibles and little spots. It's got odd coloured camouflaged intakes and things just to add a little bit more interest to your model, and this is in the later service life grey. Some of the bits were still dark green, and makes just for an interesting model. It's also interesting to note that this was the only airframe to carry the Sky Pirates logo after the Operation Granby, and it carried that with its mission markings still on the airframe. The downside of any modern type aircraft is the abundance of stencil data, and the Buccaneer is no different, and Airfix provide an A3 sheet of paper with plenty of stencil data to keep you occupied for an evening or two. The decal sheet is quite small, and it's got all the markings for the previous two airframes and all that stencil data, expertly printed by Cartograph, so it's going to be aftermarket quality. And you've got the instrument decals there as well. For the scale, it's fairly acceptable. This is sprue A, or frame A, in the kit, and it includes all the items from the previous Royal Navy boxing. The detail is pretty good, no rivet detail though, but fine and crisp engraved detail throughout. Pretty constant, doesn't change as it goes over curves, etc. Whether it's overdone, well, I'll leave that to the modeller to decide, but personally I quite like them. They're easy to work with and look good under a layer of paint. Sprue B has the front end and the air brakes, wheel wells, and some of the internal detail. And like I said in the walk through the instruction book, sometimes it will pay dividend to actually carefully drill out these holes in the speed brake. Just be careful, the plastic is quite soft and it's easy to tear and break. Frame C has the lower wing sections and undercarriage legs and the cockpit tub, which is barren, relying on those decals. Now, you could argue in 72nd scale that no one's going to see them. Personally, I think an Haddad etched set would certainly look the part in there. This is frame D, or sprue D. It has the ejector seats on there, which features some really quite nice detail compared to the cockpit. Granted, you're going to see those through the open canopy. It's got the rudder and the flaps and other bits and pieces. In-flight refueling probe, bulkheads and a couple of pilot figures. Here we have frame F, which is the clear parts, which are beautifully moulded. Quite nice raised framework, so easy to manually mask without canopy masks. And the two types of wing tips used on the earlier boxing in the Royal Navy one, and also in this kit, the RAF version. Finally, we have sprue G, which is showing some flash, must admit. It's got slipper tanks, bulge bomb bay, pylons, sidewinders, paveways. Must admit, it's not the best. The fins on the paveways are massively overscale. But we've got some interesting pods there, the jammer pod and the pave spike pod, slipper tanks and the air brakes without the strakes. So there we have Airfix's 1/72nd scale Blackburn Buccaneer S.2B that replaces the older Airfix offering and excels. It's a lovely build. It's got a reasonable level of detail and certainly looks the part when it's completed. So hopefully you've enjoyed and found the video useful. So please look after yourselves, stay safe, stay well, until next time.